December 21st, 1970. Do you remember when airplane tickets were actual paper booklets with carbon copies? Elvis Presley sat in first class on American Airlines Flight 4, Los Angeles to Washington, D.C., wearing a purple velvet suit and sunglasses at 6 a.m. In his pocket was a handwritten letter on airline stationery, and in his mind was a plan so bizarre that even his closest friends thought he'd lost it. He was going to meet the President of the United States without an appointment. The flight attendant, remember when they wore those crisp blue uniforms with little hats, whispered, "Mr. Presley, can I get you anything?" "Just some water, ma'am." And writing paper. She handed him another sheet of American Airlines letterhead, that distinctive eagle logo. Elvis began to write, his handwriting shaky from the pills he'd taken before boarding. Dexedrine to wake up, Seconal to calm down. But nobody on that plane knew what had happened just 12 hours earlier. December 20th. Graceland Mansion in Memphis. Do you remember when houses had shag carpet so thick you'd sink into it? Elvis stood in his jungle room. Green shag carpet ceiling, Polynesian furniture, staring at the television. 3 channels. CBS, NBC, ABC, and on everyone the same story. Protests, drugs, America falling apart. Walter Cronkite reporting Vietnam casualties every night at dinner time. Remember that? Priscilla walked in wearing bell-bottom jeans and a peasant blouse. She'd been crying. "Elvis, please, come to bed. You've been up for 3 days." "I can't sleep, Scylla." His voice was hoarse. "Every time I close my eyes, I see them. The protesters, the kids burning flags." He turned to her, anguished. "I served my country, Priscilla. I put on that uniform in 1958 when I could have gotten out of it. But now these kids think I'm irrelevant. They're listening to the Beatles and Dylan, and I'm just... What? The guy who makes beach movies? Wait, because what Elvis said next revealed everything. I need to matter again, Scylla. I need to serve my country in a way that means something." He picked up Look magazine from the coffee table. On the cover, President Nixon promising law and order. "I'm going to Washington. I'm going to offer my services to the president. I can help fight drugs. I can bridge the generation gap." Priscilla stared. "Elvis, you can't just walk into the White House. Watch me." But here's what makes this story even crazier. AM, Memphis International Airport. Elvis showed up with 2 friends, Jerry Schilling and Sonny West. No security. No manager. No plan. Jerry pulled him aside. "EP, this is insane. You can't just fly to D.C. and expect to see the president." Elvis smiled. "Jerry, remember when they said I couldn't make it in music because I sounded too black for white radio and too white for black radio? People have been telling me what I can't do my whole life. I proved them wrong then. I'll prove them wrong now." At the ticket counter, Elvis pulled out a roll of cash, actual paper money the way people carried it before credit cards. 3 tickets to Washington, D.C. first available flight. The agent nearly fainted. "To Mr. Presley, just regular tickets, ma'am. I want to fly like everyone else." And that detail tells you everything about why this story matters. On the plane, Elvis wrote his letter to President Nixon. The original still exists in the National Archives, his handwriting getting messier, his spelling errors, counterty instead of country, his desperate plea. "Dear Mr. President, I am Elvis Presley and admire you. The drug culture, the hippie elements, do not consider me their enemy. I call it America and I love it. I can and will be of any service. I would love to meet you just to say hello if you're not too busy. Do you see the vulnerability? The misspellings? This wasn't PR. This was a 35-year-old man having a crisis at 30,000 feet, trying to figure out how to matter again. When they landed at Washington National Airport, Elvis went straight to a taxi. Remember those big checker cabs with ashtrays built into the doors? "Where to?" the driver asked. "The White House," the driver laughed. "Sure, buddy." Elvis didn't smile. "I'm serious. But what happened at the White House gates shocked everyone. 30 a.m., the Northwest Gate. A guard in uniform stood at attention. Remember when security was just a guy with a clipboard? Elvis handed over his letter. "I need this delivered to President Nixon. It's urgent." The guard did a double take. "You're Elvis Presley." "Yes, sir. And I'm here to serve my country." "Mr. Presley, I can't just deliver letters to the president. There are procedures." "I understand. But this is important, please. Just get this to someone who can help. Something in Elvis's voice, the sincerity, the desperation, made the guard nod. I'll try. But you'll have to wait. Maybe hours. Maybe days. Elvis sat down on a bench outside the White House in December, in Washington, in a purple velvet suit, and waited. And here's the part that will shock you. 3 hours later, the impossible happened. 4:45 a.m. A White House aide came running out. Mr. Presley, the president will see you now. Jerry's jaw dropped. Are you serious? Your letter reached Deputy Counsel Egil Krog. He showed it to the president. Nixon said, get Elvis Presley in here. This I've got to see. They were ushered through marble halls, past portraits of Washington, Lincoln, Jefferson. Elvis was quiet, focused. This was his moment. The Oval Office door opened. President Richard Nixon stood from behind the resolute desk. Remember seeing that desk on TV? Made from British ship timbers? Mr. Presley, this is certainly unexpected. Elvis shook his hand firmly. Mr. President, thank you for seeing me. You have a flair for the dramatic. Nixon gestured to chairs. Tell me what this is about. But what Elvis said next would create the most requested photograph in National Archives history. Elvis leaned forward, intense. Mr. President, I can help you. I've performed for millions. I understand youth culture. Hippies and protesters don't see me as the enemy. I can go places your agents can't. I can talk to people who won't talk to the government. Nixon studied him with that suspicious squint. And what exactly are you proposing? Make me a federal agent at large for the Bureau of Narcotics. Give me credentials. I'm not asking for money. I just want to serve. There it was. The truth. Not about drugs or hippies. About a man who'd been the biggest star in the world and was terrified he didn't matter anymore. Nixon was silent. Then, Mr. Presley, I know what it's like to be underestimated. To have people think you're past your prime. He walked to the window. I'm president and half the country thinks I'm a criminal. You're Elvis and a generation thinks you're irrelevant. Maybe we're not so different, so you'll do it. Nixon turned. I'll give you the badge myself. And we'll take a photograph. Because 50 years from now, people will look at that picture and wonder what the hell we were thinking. Let them wonder. At least they'll be talking about us. And that's when something beautiful and absurd happened. The White House photographer was called in. Ollie Atkins with his film camera. Remember when photographers only had 36 shots per roll? Gentlemen, just shake hands. But Elvis had other ideas. He walked over and gave Nixon a hug. An actual, genuine, awkward hug. Nixon's arms went out stiff, his face showing complete surprise. Click. The shutter captured it. That photograph, Nixon and Elvis in the most awkward hug in political history, would become the most requested image from the National Archives. Not Kennedy's assassination, not the Declaration of Independence, Elvis hugging Nixon, because it captured something true about America in 1970. Confusion, absurdity, sincerity, and hope all mixed together. Nixon handed Elvis the badge. A real federal narcotics badge with Elvis's name on it. Elvis held it like it was more precious than gold records or movie contracts. Thank you, Mr. President. Nixon smiled, that rare, genuine smile. Mr. Presley, I already regret it. But that's never stopped me before. But here's the tragic truth. That badge became a symbol of everything broken in Elvis's life. Elvis carried that badge everywhere, showed it to everyone, used it to get special treatment, flashed it when pulled over. But the cruelest irony? Elvis Presley, federal agent for narcotics, was himself addicted to narcotics. Priscilla knew. The pills to wake up, pills to sleep, pills to perform. Demerol, Dexedrine, Seconal, an alphabet of prescription drugs slowly killing him. In 1973, she left, took Lisa Marie and filed for divorce, not because she stopped loving him, because watching him die slowly was unbearable. Jerry Schilling later said, getting that badge was the worst thing that happened to Elvis. It validated his drug use in his mind. He thought because they were prescriptions and he had a badge, it was okay. It wasn't. By 1977, Elvis was a shell of himself. Overweight, exhausted, barely able to perform. He'd forget lyrics. His hands would shake. But even then, he kept that badge. A reminder of the day he mattered. August 16, 1977. Elvis Presley died on the bathroom floor at Graceland. He was 42. Official cause, cardiac arrhythmia. Real cause, years of prescription drug abuse. When they found him, the badge was on his nightstand, next to a Bible, next to Lisa Marie's photo. The three things he valued most: faith, family, and proof that once he'd been important to his country. The funeral was massive. Tens of thousands lined Memphis streets. Presidents sent condolences. But the strangest came from Richard Nixon, disgraced after Watergate, in a private letter to Priscilla. I remember the day Elvis came to my office. I thought it was a publicity stunt. I was wrong. He genuinely wanted to serve. I gave him that badge thinking it would be harmless. I never imagined. I'm sorry. And here's where the story takes its final turn. 2010. The National Archives released records showing Elvis's meeting with Nixon was their most requested photograph ever. That awkward hug captured America's imagination like nothing else. Priscilla, now in her 60s, gave an interview. People ask why that photo resonates. It shows two men who had everything except what they desperately wanted: to feel like they mattered. She paused, tears forming. Elvis never fought his addiction because in his mind, he wasn't on drugs. He had prescriptions. He had a badge. And that's the saddest part. He genuinely believed he was doing the right thing. But the story doesn't end in tragedy. It ends in hope. Today, that photograph hangs in recovery centers across America. Next to it, a plaque. Elvis Presley receiving a federal narcotics badge December 21, 1970. 7 years later, he died from prescription drug abuse. The badge couldn't save him. Neither could fame or presidential approval. No badge, no title can save you from addiction. Only honesty. Only asking for help. Elvis never did. Don't make his mistake. At Graceland, tourists walk through the jungle room daily. Guides tell the story. He wanted to matter. And for one day in one photograph he did. Just not the way he hoped. Because that's the real story. About a man who had